You know, much has been said over the years about the differences between winners and losers, about the difference between achievers and survivors, about the differences between those that just exist and maintain and those that strive for more. And time and time and time again, the lessons have always been on mindset, right? How many of us have heard that successful people think differently? Haven't we all heard that? You've heard that, haven't you? Successful people think differently. And for years I thought, okay, great, but what does that mean? Because, you hear that, right? Well, successful people think differently. Like, great, well, how do they think? Like, what is different that really, truly successful people and the way that they think and the way that I think? What are the differences so I can begin to realign my thinking more in tune with how really successful people think? That's what I always had in my mind when I heard that. And so I've taken some time to do some research and read some books and try to look at it and try to couch this and try to put it all in one place. And I think one word that kind of encapsulates how wealthy or very successful people think as opposed to how maybe not so successful people think or people that struggle think is a word that all of us can relate to, and it's called optimism, right? And you guys have heard me do trainings on expectation, right? That you very seldom do you get what you deserve, but you most always get what you expect. And that's a universal truth. But I think optimism really couches that and does a great job of explaining how it is that wealthy or successful people think as opposed to the 97% that are trying to get there. And let me give you an example of optimism applied in this particular arena of how people think, okay? For example, when a wealthy person looks at an opportunity, they don't instantaneously go, it's too good to be true. A wealthy person looks at an opportunity and goes, what if it is? What if it is true? And they do research and they put time and energy into figuring out if it's possible that it could really be the great deal that it looks like on the surface. Because guess what? If there weren't super fantastic things that come along in people's lives, nobody would be wealthy or successful. So clearly, sometimes it's not too good to be true. Sometimes it's just good enough to be true. Does that make sense? Here's another example. Wealthy people say, how? They get a goal in their mind and they start going over in their mind, how? How's this going to get done? How am I going to get this done? How am I going to make it happen? Who can I contact? Who can I talk to? What steps can I take? What actions can I take? How can I move this plan forward? People that are not in the 3%, they don't ask the question, how? They ask the question, what if? What if it doesn't work? Well, what if it fails? Well, what if the company doesn't follow through? What if the company falls apart? What if it doesn't do what they say it does? What if something to death, and they will literally take every poor scenario possible and plug it in there and see what it looks like. Wealthy people, it doesn't mean that wealthy or successful people don't weigh the pros and cons or they don't look at the possible negative outcomes of something. It just simply means they ask the question how far more often than they ask the question what if, right? How about this? On the subject of what if questions, successful people say, what if it works? What if it happens just the way that we thought? Whereas unsuccessful people tend to say, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't happen? What if it goes wrong? How about this question? Wealthy people, when they make a decision, it's done. They make the decision and then they follow through to the conclusion, good or bad. And by the way, on that topic, successful people don't always succeed in every single thing they do. That is a misconception. Successful people fail far more often than unsuccessful people do. But because they try enough things and they engage in enough calculated risk, when they win big. Does this make sense, everyone? Okay? So they don't necessarily, it's not that they don't weigh the negative possibilities. It's just that they ask the question always, what if it works? In other words, if the juice is worth the squeeze, let's do it. And if it doesn't work out, it'd be one more thing that didn't work out. Who cares? Whereas people in the 97% tend to ask, what if it doesn't work? What will people say? What will people think? How will I look? Okay? On that topic, successful people don't really spend a whole lot of time worrying about what other people think. OPO, other people's opinions, doesn't matter much to successful people. Unsuccessful people, however, base the overwhelming majority of their decisions, thoughts, beliefs, and actions on what other people are going to think or say about their actions, thoughts, and beliefs. Here's the last one. People in the 97% use the word should a lot. Should I do this? Should I engage? They're very seldom decided. They're almost always on the fence. Should I do it? Should I not? Should I stay? Should I go? In other words, they never make up their mind, plant their flag, and make a decision. Successful people, on the other hand, are almost always decided. They figure out what they're going to do, they set the course, they burn the ships, and they say, we're taking this to its logical conclusion, as I mentioned a moment ago. We're going to take this to the end, good or bad. However it turns out, whether it turns out the way we hoped it would or whether it doesn't, we're going to take it to the end to see how it turns out. Unsuccessful people, however, have a tendency to bail out on things very early because they're always in the should mode. Should I do this? Should I stick? Should I stay? Should I invest more money into this business? Should I spend more time in this particular endeavor? Should I? And should has no power behind it. And these are just a few examples of the differences between how very successful people think and how people who are not so successful think. So how can you and I adjust our thinking to be more in line with how successful people think? And the answer is optimism. The answer is expectation. As I mentioned in the beginning, that word optimism will lead you down the path of thinking the way that successful people think as opposed to not. You see, I believe that the major difference between the two, all of those examples can be boiled down to one thing. Successful people have a benevolent view of the world. They believe that the world is conspiring for their good, to bring them abundance and wealth and happiness and joy. Whereas the 97% tend to think the other way. They tend to think that the world's a dangerous and hostile place and everyone's out to get them and it's too good to be true and everybody's looking to steal from them and get them and gouge them and trick them and all the rest of that. And so they go through their life afraid to take risks, asking should, never making a decision, always on the fence. And so the way that you move from the 97% over to the more successful 3% and how they think is to be optimistic about your endeavors. When you go into something, expect to win. When you meet a new person, expect that relationship to be a good one. When you engage in a business transaction, expect it to be mutually beneficial. Begin to expect greatness and abundance for yourself and in your life. And this won't necessarily be easy in the beginning, but you got to force yourself to do it. You got to force yourself to stop asking the questions of what if and start asking the questions of how, and then believe in the outcome you envisioned when you engaged in it in the beginning. And when you get that mindset of optimism, your whole world is going to change. Welcome to the 3%, and that's the dose.